This podcast is for anyone that knows they haven't yet found and offered up their best work, but are compelled to seek it out and do it. Are you ready to move your desk? Hello, my friends. It's been a while. I actually recorded a few episodes in the last couple of months, but I'd start to edit them. I'm like, nah, I don't want to put them out there. Haven't felt like it. And then it's funny putting on my microphone today. I'm like, wow, this doesn't even fit right. It's been squished and pushed around so much in the bag that I kept it in to take with me this past summer. And so I'm glad that it still works, but I can still kind of put it on and just sit here with you. I had zero plans to podcast today, actually, but I got done with the training and I had this hour and a half, I guess, alone. I thought sometimes I'm like, wow, I rarely have any time alone. What am I going to do with this time? I thought I'm going to share some thoughts because there's just so many thoughts to share, right? And there's so many thoughts that I actually don't share too as part of this. So, but I wanted to get on here. I'm going through a lot of different things, and there's so much in my mind. I don't even know how to share it, but I decided not to have notes so I could just talk. So I'm talking to you. And my hope is that one person will benefit. And I can't plan on my emotions right now. So it's good that I'm crying because sometimes it's hard to get tears out. Sometimes there's such deep pains. It's just stuck. It's just stuck. You can't get it out. But I'm going to keep talking anyway because that's how I do. So if you can't handle a grown woman crying, well, that's your deal, not mine. But I do hope that someone has an insight as a result of today or shares with me an insight because I need you probably more than you need me. I'm going to physical therapy right now. I've gone for 2 or 3 weeks and my leg is getting better. I'd been training for a triathlon for about a year. I got started early because I'm like, I want to get in shape. I want to lose some weight. I've been sitting a lot, not because I wanted to, but because of working in front of a laptop. So I started early, but in May, I went to get a massage. I had done extra that week. Not a lot of running, not a lot of swimming, but I'd been on a bike that was too small for me, a stationary bike, and got all kind of cramped up. So I went to a massage place and got a full body massage. It took away all the aches, but then like in the last few minutes of the massage, she somehow was working really hard on my leg and injured me somehow. And that was in May, and it hurt for a couple of weeks. And I just kind of was like, well, must have been a good massage. It's going to get fixed. And nope, it did not fix. And my father broke his hip somewhere in the first week or two of June. And so as soon as school got out, I got in a car and went west to Idaho, not knowing how long it would take for my father to recover. And I wanted to make sure to help with the property and all that. And, this was an awesome chance for my son to see cousins and family and see some of the sites in the United States. So it was pretty awesome to travel across the United States. I've done this several times in my life, but this is the first time I think I've done it with my son and me going from Virginia, and we went to Oregon, but not all in the same few weeks. I mean, it was over the course of a couple months, but I've driven and seen lots of things. I don't take the short routes. I tend to take new routes each time. I don't like going on the same road over and over again, unless, of course, it's an amazing road. They're lucky to stay with family and friends along the way. And my dad is doing great with that, at least. He has some other issues that are just cropping up, just things cropping up. But lucky that my parents work very hard inside the house, out of the house. They are volunteering each week with helping people with their genealogical research, helping with Meals on Wheels, and helping volunteer at a temple every week for church. My son's in school, but he's off on Fridays. So I juggle a lot of things. trying to make sure that the time that he is home, I'm spending with him, but I, of course, can't do that all. And I'm working a full-time job right now and a part-time gig. And because I choose to make evening time for him and weekends and everything off from that, that means I pretty much start work at 4 or 5 every morning and often go until 4 or 5 every night. I'd prefer to be doing that mowing lawns in many ways instead of being behind the laptop. But I understand it's for a time and it's necessary just because of different things going on in my life. So I've been trying to juggle a lot of things this year between work, changes in family, changes in living location, and really trusting that it's okay to be invisible for a long period of time. And I'm very lucky that in that invisibleness, every single day, I have a friend reach out. It's usually the same 4 or 5 people. Even as I started recording this, I got a text from someone saying, I hope you're doing well, thinking of you. And, I think that's probably why I was so emotional when I started this. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Someone across the country thought of me right now and thought to reach out. And I, of course, appreciate her a lot. And I'm grateful that she reaches out periodically. I haven't been really good at reaching out the other direction. Sometimes we go through very selfish times in life. Some people go through selfish times a lot and need to learn how to reach out. Some of us are trying to learn that balance of not reaching out to people all the time and trusting that there's a time and a place to work on ourselves for a little while. So, all of that to say, I've had some really interesting experiences on my journey. And one of the experiences has to do with the triathlon because I've been really trying to figure out what it meant for me. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, I came out to visit when my parents had moved to Idaho, and it was right during the Spudman weekend. And it was very inspiring to see the people biking down a hill and then getting ready to go on a run. And it was right near the Snake River, if you're aware of the Snake River. It's a very fast moving river in North America. I think it might be the fastest, and it runs through where we live. And I was like, wow, that'd be kind of cool to do sometime. Well, last year I was in the throes of having these nope, I don't do that moments that I think I talked about in some podcasts, where I realized that I was quick to say, nope, I don't do that to some things, and kind of started stopping myself and making myself challenge myself to the point where I'd have to try most of the things I say I wouldn't do. So that was my journey of learning to love sauna. That was my journey of doing a marathon and deciding, I know some people are addicted. For me, running, I mean, even as I try to lose weight and everything, it's like it's just not my deal. But I love biking and I love swimming and I love walking and rowing boats and stuff. And so I was willing to try it and I did it. I did a half marathon and a full marathon. I think part of those little challenges I was doing for myself, I also did a 1-page resume, which is something that I never wanted to do and didn't like. And I did that. And it's fine. I just used it for a couple of things and I'm going back to some other stuff. But that was the whole point of the nope, I don't do that moments. You decide whether you want to do it, to discard it, or defer it, right? So you want to do more. You're discarding because you tried it and you're like, nah. And then defer, because sometimes it's just not the right time, but you know that you want to do it. So, as part of that, I decided to do a triathlon and specifically the Spudman. I thought, I, I do tons of journeys alone. A lot of my life, I feel like I've been alone. I have a lot of friends now, but I feel like I've always been like the off age or the off height or the off timing or something. And so I've had to do a lot of things my own. I thought I'd like to do this with some friends. And so I had 2 friends that I did the Spudman with, and we had conference calls every few weeks, and we taught each other and we learned and grew. And we surprised ourselves with our capabilities. My biggest fear was the running. I had one of my friends that, didn't want to do the swimming, another one that was worried about the biking, and we all worked through it and realized we could do it. No problem. Like we could do it. Doesn't mean we do it well, but we could do it, right? Because after you start practicing, your body starts to change rapidly and you get a lot of strength. I know that when I was driving across the country this summer, I hiked in Georgia get the names all of a sudden. Stone Mountain, yeah, that side of Atlanta. I think it's on the east side. And I don't think we actually reached the top, my son and I. I thought we had, so I turned around. We were in a rush. And then when I drove around the side, I'm like, whoops, not quite the top. No problem. I got to do it. And I can do it again if I want to when I visit cousins in Georgia. We also went on the hike to the Delicate Arch on a very hot day. It was slightly over 100 degrees. I do not recommend that. People die doing this stuff. I was just adamant we were going to do it. We did the short hike and we did the long hike, and we were not prepared. I'm so grateful for some people that you take turns stopping along the way, and they noticed my son and I, and they gave us some extra Gatorade because we plowed through our bottles of water super fast. And my son, who complained the whole way to the top on the way down, is like, Mommy, I want to do this again. He was so proud of himself. And I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad that you tried it. I want him to try things at least once. And then if he doesn't like it, fine. But you can't tell me you don't like it if you haven't tried it. And I'm using that rule for myself as well. Of course, there's some things that are off limits to me, but for the most part, allowing myself to try new things. I noticed on those hikes that the issue was not my breath. I had the strength to breathe and do all I needed to do. Most of the issue dealt with going downhill with my leg because it still hurt me. And I wasn't able to put in the training the last 2 months before the race. But I wasn't worried, right? Because I was so much more fit than I had been. And I felt like anything I did strengthened me and that I was going to do fine on this race. It's easy for me to swim a mile. I wasn't worried about that. I realized my leg was bad, so I was probably going to be doing, fits and starts, running and walking. But I thought, nah, I don't get tired walking. I can walk forever. So I wasn't worried about that. The biking, I had been on that small stationary bike, and I really needed to purchase a bike when I came out to the Spudman so that I could actually ride on a real bike. And I did that. I did a couple times. I went out for a couple 12 milers and a couple 24-mile rides. And therein is where the lessons start to come out. I realized that one of my friends had already done the Spudman, and I listened to her, but I didn't take it fully to heart to experiment as much as she said to see what worked with my body. And of course, when you're doing most of your training in Virginia at around sea level and you come out to Idaho where you're 4 or 5,000 feet above sea level, if you haven't done that before, there's some transitions. I'm a little more used to it now than perhaps some people, but I hadn't experimented with what gave me energy. I hadn't experimented with what triathlon suit worked best for me. I had worn a couple of wetsuits of mine, but I had been playing on the beach in really cold storms. I'd gone up to New Jersey with one of my sisters was performing in New York in a music concert, and we went to the New Jersey, the shore, and we went to some military fort, everything outside of New York City and everything. And we're out there on a cold day. We're running around in the waves and everything. Felt so good. It felt so warm. But for some reason, I had a different experience with the wetsuit in the Spudman. So some lessons learned going on that I really hadn't prepared as much as some of my friends on some of these things. And I thought it was going to be okay, right? That I hadn't prepared so much. One of the nope, I don't do that things that I did not test before the race was my default of nope, I don't ride racing bikes. I always want to be on a sturdy mountain bike, and that was not a smart decision. So lessons learned, but I've kept my cheap Walmart Huffy 29-incher so that I can train on that. So when I get on a racing bike, it'll be super easy because I am planning on doing the Spudman again. I got to Idaho July 4th and started to train. My leg still hurt. I had a friend let me use her husband's bike. It was a $3,000 bike. I think it was a Trek. Maybe not. Can't remember. And it was really easy to ride. I'm like, this is almost too easy. Maybe if I had something a little harder, I'd actually go even faster. And it was a 27-incher. And it's like, I put the seat up. I'm like, I just think I need another inch or two. And I think part of this is because of my experience hurting my leg on the smaller stationary bike that I had been practicing on. So I got out on a couple of those bike rides. I didn't really experiment those last couple of weeks on new energy things, except I did try something about Oreos. Someone's like, oh, the key to the triathlon is these Oreos, people take them on a thing. I tried them on bike ride. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I like cookies, but I don't think this is going to work for me. So the race day came and my leg still hurt. In fact, I massaged it a lot the night before, and that actually made it worse. I'm like, great. Am I even going to finish this thing? And then, of course, you worry about your bike tires popping on this race because there are these things in Idaho called goat heads, and they're very powerful, right? They're these little dried up balls with spikes on them. They're from the weeds. And if you go over them on your bike, you're toast. I mean, it just automatically goes flat. Like we have them all over the property here. And my one bike tire's flat right now. You have to change it out and get the kind that, have the slime in it to fill in the holes. So I thought, oh, I'm going to have a busted tire on this ride. I'm low energy. My leg hurts, like all this stuff. I get on my wetsuit, go to the race with my friends. We had already set up the night before because when you're in a triathlon, you have to go put your bike somewhere. You put the things you need while you're on the bike. You go to another stop where you return the bike, and then that's where you're going to go on the run. So you might be taking off some clothes, adding some along the way. As far as I can tell, if you're really experienced at triathlons, you don't even wear the wetsuit or anything. You just wear your triathlon suit. You just keep it simple, keep the energy simple and small. Don't carry a lot with you. And you do everything that Rebecca didn't do because I come prepared, right? Like I'm one of those people that always carries a bag with me just in case I get bored. I can have something to write on, something to read, whatever. But this is where you shouldn't be bringing extras. Beautiful morning at the end of July. And one of the friends of mine was doing the sprint, which is the shorter race. It's kind of like everything's cut in half for the swim, bike, and run. And I did the Olympic, which was basically a mile swim. It was river assisted. We have a strong current in the favorable direction. 24-ish mile bike ride because I'm translating from kilometers, and about a 6 mile run. Earlier that week, I had tried to run, couldn't run very far. So I realized I was going to do a fast walk. At least that's what I thought in my mind. I get into the water. We just slowly got into the water. We thought, let's go at the end of this group and we'll just take it easy because the current takes you. So I thought, take it easy, do this slow, save all the energy for the biking and running. I get in the water with my full body wetsuit. And this is a wetsuit I hadn't tested in the water. I got just like three or four. I decided that right. I'm like, I'm going to do this one. It seems, more resilient. Well, I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's the wetsuit or if it was the experience that I was supposed to have. But I got in that water and I felt like I had 100 extra pounds on me. And I had not felt that way in the other wetsuit I had tried a few days earlier in the water. And I started swimming and it's very slow. And I'm like, wow, I'm not moving. And it was kind of fun because my friend the whole time's going, Rebecca, where are you? And I'm, Pam, where are you? And we keep each other in check because you have to be in the right spot in the river, right? You have to go out far enough that you're catching the current because we kept floating toward the shore, which actually makes it slower. I'm like, Becca, where are you? Pam, where are you? Becca, where are you? Pam, where are you? And then we got out of the water in 27, 28 minutes or something. And I was like, oh, I can't believe this. I thought I was going to do like a 15 or 16-minute swim. And I'm already in a worst case scenario. The person that helped me put on my wetsuit had never done it before. She put a very long, the long string, I can't remember what it's called right now, inside the suit. So it was messing with my neck and then I couldn't get it off. And I'm lucky that my sister and her husband were standing near and she unzipped it for me. And I went to my bike, took that off, and the bike shirt wasn't there. And I had my triathlon suit on and I had a little skirt, kind of, like the shorts and a little skirt. And I wanted to wear my bike shirt over it because I'm just not someone that likes to walk around showing my body, let's just say. It's just a personal, issue. And so I thought, you got to be kidding. Now I have to ride just in my triathlon suit and my little skirt. I don't have that bike shirt to cover up my shoulders. And it seems ridiculous, doesn't it, listening to it? But it's not ridiculous to me, right? It's not. That it's just that's how I feel. So at that point, I'm feeling low about myself. I'm like, I have to go without this bike shirt. Put on this little backpack that's supposed to, you're supposed to drink the water from. And I had like 3 or 4 bottles of Gatorade or something with me too, and water. It was like I was so over prepared and I had this huge weight on my shoulders. I get on the bike and I start to ride. The 100 pounds was still on me. I don't understand. And I'm like, what is going on? And I was pumping as hard as I could. And it felt like I was not going anywhere, nowhere. I'm a girl that's ridden my bike since I started riding a bike. What age is that? 6 or 7? I rode a bike every day practically growing up. And I would go to my babysitting jobs or deliver papers or go to where I was mowing lawns and to school and to do errands and stuff. I rode my bike and I'm sitting here pumping as hard as I can and I can't get anywhere and everyone's passing me. And I'm like, okay, I finally realized this is just how it's going to go. And I'm about a mile into the race and I look over and I see my dad on a riding lawnmower down by the road waving at me, which was really cool because I hadn't expected to see anybody I knew along the race route. And I went another mile and I started thinking about my life because everyone's just passing me at that point. I'm like, okay, I just have to finish. I just have to finish. This is so hard. It's like I'm 100 pounds of extra weight. And people were so great going by. They're like, you can do it, keep going. Oh, wow, I did it on a bike like that before. It's so hard, but you can do it, keep going. And I was buoyed up by that. But at the same time, as I started thinking about my life and the challenges I was dealing with, I got overwhelmed and I got emotional. I don't know what it is, but for some reason, if I'm riding a bike and emotional, or if I'm in a sauna and get emotional, I get so choked up that I can't breathe and I start hyperventilating. So I had to get off the bike, do that for a few minutes, get back on. 3 or 4 miles later, I'm hyperventilating again because I started thinking about my life. And I finally realized I should not be thinking about my life. I need to just do the race. But in that, I started praying. I'm like, I need this burden lifted. I need to finish this. I worked hard for this. I want this. Plus, even if I can't finish this, I'll still be out here in the middle of the alfalfa and potato fields. It's not like there's another way to get back, right? Like I have to do the thing. I I have to keep going. There's nothing to do but to keep going. And I just kept on the whole way going, wow, I thought my burden would be lifted as I drank some of the fluids. I thought my burden would be lifted as I just got in gear and started going across some of the flat places. And it was as if I was riding in lace. When I had practiced, I had been able to get it to the 2 hour mark at one point in practice, but I was over 2.5 hours on that bike. And the hard part is the last part of the race, there's 3 hills. And most of the race is flat, but right at the end where you're tired out, there's the hills. And when I had done the practice at the beginning of the first hill, I usually got off the bike and stood there for a minute, took a drink, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna barrel down this hill, get enough momentum to go up the next hill, let inertia work for me. I tried to get off that bike, couldn't get off the bike. My legs were so wobbly. They were like noodles. I'm like, whoa, I really have to finish. I can't get off this bike until the end because I'm just going to collapse here and then they're going to have to send people to get me and I'm already behind and everything. So somehow I got through those hills and I'm coming in to the place where you're supposed to park your bike and run. And the guy's like, you got to get off your bike. I'm like, I can't get off my bike. You're going to have to help me. So I basically rode up to him and had him like help me as I got off. And luckily within, 30 seconds, you start walking again. I walk into that bike area and I'm like, where are all the thousands of bikes? There's hardly any bikes. Now, there's probably more than I thought, but there were hardly any. And I'm so embarrassed at this time. I'm ashamed of myself because here's this woman that's never been last in sports, that's big and strong, that's 6 feet tall and a little taller on good days. she's that inferior to everyone in the race. That's what's going through my head. And I look up and there's another woman in a bright yellow shirt. And it's my sister who had been walking along the swim with her husband the whole time and unzipped me from my wetsuit. And here she was when I got off the bike there to meet me. And she's like, "You're doing well, Becca. You're doing well. Keep going." And she sent me on my way. And I walk up a hill. You have to walk up a hill when you start your run. And I get to the top and I'm like, okay, maybe I can do my plan now. I'll run a little, I'll walk a little, I'll run a little, I'll walk a little. And I got this far, right? I got this far. I took 2 steps running and I could not run. There was no part of my legs that would run. I couldn't believe it. Like, oh, here we go again. Like, what the heck? And I was like, well, I'm going to be walking. And I walked as fast as I could. I thought I was walking fast, and it felt like forever. And after forever happened, I finally saw a mile marker, a 1 mile marker. Like, you have got to be kidding me. I didn't think there'd be any markers because I didn't see any markers when I was doing the 24 miles on the bike. I was in shock. I'm like, I can't even believe this. I am so tired. My legs won't move. I don't even know what to do. And so I started walking backwards because when I walked backwards, my legs wouldn't hurt. And we're walking through the fields again. And we go through a cornfield, actually, on one of the canal roads. And I start talking to people along the way. And I'm realizing that I'm with all the, slower people at this point. Somehow, I don't even understand. We're walking through the fields and even got to this place to have water. And I stood there and talked for like 10 minutes because there was a lady that was just breaking down. And she was in her 60s and she had not been allowed to do the race the year before because her doctor said, you've had a heart attack. You can't do this. And I was kind of giving her a pep talk. I'm like, you are standing here in the middle of Idaho talking to me in a cornfield. And that means you just rode 24 miles on your bike and just swam a mile. um, we got 4 miles left. You can do it. It doesn't matter how slow you do it. I'll walk with you. But she stayed there and waited. And I'm hopeful that she's not the person that had a heart attack, if someone did have a heart attack at the race. I kept going. I walked and I walked backwards and I walked forward and I walked backwards and I kept going. And I thought I was going as fast as I could. But that 100 pounds didn't leave me the whole time. There's a huge burden on me. And there's this place where you end the race, where you go through a neighborhood and there's a little grove of trees and you kind of go through the grove of trees and down a hill. And it's a great way to finish a race, right? Because you're coming down the hill, you look out over the water. There's this big thing, this big, arch that you can run under. And it's just kind of a great end to a race. And you're on green grass. It's very beautiful. I saw the grove of trees coming, like, oh, sweet. I'm I'm at the end, right? I'm going to go down the hill. And I go into the trees and I see a yellow shirt. And my sister's like, Becca, we've been wondering where you were. We thought you were injured. We saw you in the tracker, but there's these periods where you were just stopped. We didn't know what was going on. We didn't know if it was broken or not. But I'm so glad you're here. And she walked with me down the hill. And I looked at the little arch that you go through. And there's a tall guy standing there with 3 little boys. And it was one of my brothers with my son and 2 of his children. And I didn't realize it at the time, but my sister-in-law was recording it all from the sidelines. And my 2 friends were standing on the side too. And I finished the race. I had zero happiness when I finished the race. I had no pride. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I had lots of negative emotions. I could not believe how slow I had been. I had done worse than my worst case scenario. It was under 5 hours. I had expected to do a whole thing in less than 3, I think. And I was sure of it. I thought that was my worst case scenario. And it was more like 4.5 or even more than 4.5, but it wasn't 5 hours. It was under 5. And I remember thinking, man, there must be something I must be supposed to learn from this. The good thing about being so slow is the announcer said that I was the only person had someone waiting there to give me flowers when I went over the finish line. And that meant a lot to me, actually, because I had the finish line almost to myself. Now, granted, there were a couple people coming here and there around me, but it meant that at that finish line were people that I cared about and that cared about me. And they were so proud of what I'd done. And there were other people that were virtual that knew what I was doing, and they were proud and they were inspired to see their aunt or their sister or their friend doing a triathlon, despite injuries, despite the burdens, despite everything going on in life. I finished. It's taken a few months to be proud of myself and to figure out how I can turn that experience into a learning experience, into something I could share. But I have recognized over the last few months that what it did teach me is that I have been carrying burdens that are too heavy for me to carry. And in that process, learning that I'm not supposed to carry those burdens. From a spiritual perspective, I believe there is a savior to carry the burdens. But on a personal perspective, I've also learned that I am learning a lot about different things that I never cared to learn about before, that I didn't realize that I was. I'm learning lots of things about high functioning depression or high functioning codependence, about things like narcissism and different behaviors, and finding out which of those are in me and which are not, seeing where I've been an enabler in life and where I have lessons to learn. And that day was the beginning of a lot of challenges that increased and have continued to increase. And I'm still working through and learning about. It was important. It was an important part of my journey to experience that, to feel how heavy burdens are, and to realize that I had a gift given to me to understand the breadth and depth of those burdens as I tried to carry them on that race, and to cry out for help and not feel like I had help, and to realize later that it was necessary for me to feel it so that feeling would stay with me, to understand how heavy it can be to carry all the burdens that are out there to carry in life. And then to learn how to start letting go of those, and how to get help, and how to overcome embarrassment and shame and work through it, and learn more about your identity and being authentic to yourself, and to go through that process of realizing how hard you should keep working for things that you want, but understand that every step of the way may get harder, and yet your capacity to handle it increases. And I'm grateful to have been able to learn that through that experience. I'm still learning it. It prepared me for the burdens I would start carrying that were brand new, and to learn how to deal with those burdens, and to still show up every day, even as I carried those burdens. And the beauty of learning to recognize the burdens in others along with that. I know that when I was on the race, it was such a comfort to have people go by me, wishing me luck and saying, keep going, keep trying. And it just felt like there was no judgment. They were just glad I was there. They were just glad I was there. That's a big deal, to have people glad that you're there. There's a lot of us that feel invisible right now. And I've learned to embrace that right now. I'm like, I've been given this time to be invisible. I've been given this time to work on myself and work very hard to do the things that need to be done, and to embrace that time and space, and to have a hope that it's not lost time, that it's all for your personal development. It's all for your personal growth and understanding, and to increase the compassion and acceptance of other people, and to be open to them, and also to discover things about yourself and learn from those things in ways that help set you up so that you don't make some of the same mistakes going forward, or that you can go through different experiences in ways that are unique from how you've dealt with those experiences in the past. and to recognize ahead of time clues in people and experiences that help you decide and make different decisions that might benefit you more than in the past. At the same time I say that, we can't avoid life, right? Life hands us certain things and we get to learn from them. And some of those things come as a result of our choices, and some of those things come as a result of other people's choices. And learning to take something from those experiences either way, no matter how good or bad they seem in the moment. I'm grateful for all the lessons I continue to learn. I'm grateful for life, even though on a daily basis, I go back and forth in loneliness and wonder and hope that I'm making the right decisions and that there's a bright future. Because sometimes it doesn't feel so bright. Sometimes we feel like an indentured servant to some of the things going on in our lives. I periodically listen to the Dr. Andrew Huberman podcast, and I really liked a concept that was brought up a few months ago. And I just wanted to read you part of what came up when I searched it, because I was like, yeah, I want to share something about this with people, about doing hard things. According to Dr. Andrew Huberman, deliberately doing hard things that you don't necessarily want to do is a powerful way to build mental resilience and strengthen a part of the brain called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, which is associated with the ability to push through challenges and discomfort. Essentially, it trains our brain to better handle difficult situations in life by actively engaging in challenging tasks you might naturally avoid. It helps with brain plasticity, adaptive behavior, and real-world application. I really love that, and I hope you look that up if you're interested in it, because that is one thing that I've learned over the last couple of years, and I continue to learn every single day as I do hard things, that it's good for your brain. It's how we grow. And our ability to handle growth, our ability to handle challenges and everything comes from having that opposition. I grew up with the phrase, there must be opposition in all things. And I learned in coaching school the concept of 50-50, where it's really good, you're going to find really bad also. Like there has to be that balance for some reason. I don't make the rules, right? But to realize that if you look at very successful people, one trait that they have is their ability to do hard things, to do the things they don't want to do, and often do those things every single day because they know it's the right thing, or that there's something that they want on the end of that. And I think we find that with people that do amazing things in sports and music and science, in the military, in building new companies, and people who are raising amazing families. If you're someone looking from the outside in, you might be jealous. But if you were to look at their life day to day, moment by moment, I'm assuming most of us wouldn't choose it because it would be hard. It would be constantly challenging the status quo. It would be constantly doing the thing you don't want to do, knowing that it builds muscle, that it builds character, that it makes things happen, good things happen. And I think if you look at the powers of the universe, even those powers, they have to have the ability to handle all kinds of emotions. The God of the universe has to be able to handle all kinds of emotions. And I have really been thinking a lot about this lately, going, wow, if I want to actually be strong, I have to be able to handle the hard things. If I haven't gone through the hard things, I can't claim to be strong. In fact, I was just talking about this with someone the other day. There's this confidence I see in so many people. So there's a certain confidence I see that I recognize. And it's that confidence from naivety and a boldness that comes from not being aware of the situation. And so you walk around confident and a little cocky, but as life hits you and you go through more experiences and everything, that can get tested. And ironically, you start feeling very weak because the more you know, the less you realize you know. Like you become more aware. And stepping into those higher level awareness feel very weak. For a while, you almost feel like a failure, I believe. At least I have. But as you continue to expose yourself to that awareness and continue to learn more, I think the confidence creeps back in. But it's different, right? It's not as cocky or as bold. It's kind of a quiet confidence and strength. And it's something that can be felt when you are near someone that has that strength. You feel safe and protected, and like they'll stand for something. They'll bust a move and it needs to be busted, right? Or they can endure hard things. And it may be quiet, but it can endure. It can stand up for things. And it's special. We're all going through this life process. There's much to do. There's much to learn. There's mistakes to be made. And for a period of time, you may feel like you are floating to rock bottom. And you may have an actual rock around your ankle that feels like just pulling you down, down, down. But if you can handle that, you can handle a lot of stuff. Looking strong, being strong sure feels weak. But keep going. And I am so lucky. I have strong family and friend connections, and they've been very bold with me this year. People have told me very hard things they've been wanting to tell me for a long time, and have helped me not put up with some things I was putting up with, and to really realize that it was time to stand up and take all the actions that needed to be taken, and do so boldly. And whether or not I was afraid, but it's kind of cool. As I'm sitting here talking, I'm thinking back and going, I've done a heck of a lot of things, a lot of hard things. And I know I'm going to do more hard things, but you just keep taking the step. You keep moving. And somehow a way is provided, and somehow you make it through. Okay. Keep pushing. There are heavy burdens to bear. Ask for them to be lifted, and keep moving forward. A person will show up. A note will show up. An opportunity will show up. Something to help you on that next step. Okay, my friends, I will podcast when I want to. And I guess I wanted to today. And I hope to see you again. Please share with me your stories and insights. And one of these days, I'll be more proactive in reaching out to some of you. I don't know who you are, but I'll be reaching out more to my family and friends, and being the kind of person that they've been to me. So supportive, and following inspiration they receive to contact me. I love it. They're following the nudge. Hey, have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
From North Carolina, she crosses right there. And there's Rebecca Clark from Virginia. And Jenna Durham comes in from Mill Creek, Utah. Nice job, Jenna. Jenna, Shelby, and Camille, nice job. And Rebecca. Yeah. Virginia, North Carolina, holy cow. National event right here in Bowie, Idaho.
Thank you for coming. Elijah, don't open them. It's awesome. So freaking proud of you. We got some flowers and cookies. I at least met lots of friends when you go slow. hey, is that my phone?
It's your phone. I found it.
It's there. Oreos. Hey, let's go. Ezra! You guys did awesome.
5 hours.
Do you want to get a picture with
Yep,
them?
I will.
10 minutes. Yeah, 5 hours and 10 minutes.
Elijah.
Hey, girls! Tell them to get in front of the finish.
Hey, Becca. Becca, Pam.
Intermountain Health
Pam,
Care,
get over here.
providing stretching
Stand
and
up, over
rehabilitation,
here.
first aid medical support, photo booth, and the chocolate milk recovery drink.
Ann,
Big hand for them.
stand in front of the finish.
Pepsi Cola providing the water, furnishing all the water. Dairy Gold providing all the chocolate milk recovery drinks. We don't want to leave out the Burley High School dance team. There's still a few of them over here giving out water and medals. Oakley dance team now. Oh, you switched. Okay, so now we got the Oakley dance team finishing things up. That's awesome. So, service clubs from Oakley and Burley, and probably definitely as well. Local area high